Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Debate Show. Me and Jack have been doing this for 3 years now. Anyway, going in our fourth coming up in December here. So we've been trying to find out who's right in their opinions here in sports. Of course, Jack normally wins with a little bit of help from me as we go through our debate questions. You know, Jack, we've got a lot of things going on in sports this time of the season. NBA's coming up, so we're going to have plenty of topics to talk about there. MLB's closing down, and of course, the NFL's almost halfway through the season. So let's start off with your team, Jack, the Jets. The New York Jets are 3-3 right now, playing 500. The defense is playing off the hook right now. And of course, and all sports, momentum is a big thing. Jets had a big win against the Philadelphia Eagles. They go into a bye week. And of course, you guys got a tough schedule this year, and Aaron Rodgers still isn't ready to play yet. So momentum-wise, I don't know if a bye week is good or not for you. I know you had a few guys injured or not. But what do you think? Do you think the Jets beating the Eagles set them at such a pace that maybe now they've won their biggest game of the year, and now maybe the momentum starts falling off a little bit?
Well, I don't know if the word momentum per se, but the Jets have to be feeling really good about the way things are going. It's 3-3. They have to bye week. And what does that mean? It's like the season is starting again for them. They've kind of been reborn as far as the season goes. Because when Aaron Rodgers went down in the first game of the season, they did beat the Buffalo Bills. They did come back. So that at least put them in a frame of mind that, okay, we got to move forward without him. Had they lost the Buffalo game, been 0-1, then losing the next week to Dallas, and then they lost to New England the third game of the year, they would have been 0-3. Everyone would have said the season was over. But the Jets rebounded. They're 3-3. And if you look at their schedule from the beginning of the year, these 6 games to this point, and had they had Aaron Rodgers, people were predicting for the most part they'd be around 3-3. And now Rodgers is still learning the offense. Everything is still gelling. So there's a good feeling Zach Wilson, even though he's no Aaron Rodgers, isn't a disaster anymore the way, people made him out to be. Okay. And, he's turned into a halfway decent game manager. In other words, he doesn't make mistakes. Okay. The way he made before, because they have him playing pretty conservatively within the game, relying on the running game with Breece Hall, who's been phenomenal, and their defense, which is arguably the best in the league. So, yeah, the Jets have a definite reset. Game 7, 6 games are done, 11 games to go. It's like the season's starting, and there's hope there. There's real hope. And now, Mac, especially with Aaron Rodgers, throwing the ball, and there's a school of thought, a serious school of thought, he might actually be back. A more debatable question, Mac, might be, and I'm going to ask you this. Let's say Aaron Rodgers is ready to play come playoff time. He's cleared, and the Jets get into the playoffs. Let's hypothetically say they're a wild card team, and they make the playoffs, which is certainly a realistic thing to say. And Zach Wilson is improving a little bit. He's not lights out, but he continues to improve a little bit. Do you necessarily put in a rusty Aaron Rodgers, who's been out all year, coming off an injury, in a playoff game, instead of sticking with Zach Wilson? Or do you do what I would do? Is Aaron Rodgers in the bullpen? If Zach Wilson is starting to struggle, then you call Aaron Rodgers to come in. Or is the Jet organization a little too intimidated to tell Aaron Rodgers, no, you've been out of action all year. We'll be ready to put you in if Zach is struggling or he gets hurt. But Zach has to start for now because he's a lot sharper and he's a lot more game ready. You tell me what you think would happen.
Well,
should happen.
Well, first of all, you paid all that money for Aaron Rodgers. You want to throw all that. And Aaron Rodgers has played in the playoffs before. Zach Wilson, you say he's a decent game manager. That's not who you would want. If you had a choice between an MVP and a decent game manager, of course you go with the MVP.
No. An MVP when he's healthy and sharp. I'm talking about an Aaron Rodgers him off a layoff of a year.
Aaron Rodgers didn't used to play in the preseason at all and will come in and start playing right away, Jack. He's in the system. They brought the quarterback, the coach over here to bring the system back to the Jets. So I wouldn't take a chance. Suppose you jump down, you're down 14-0. Aaron Rodgers brings you back and scores 13 points. You're fired as a head coach. That makes no sense. Momentum is a lot in football, Jack. It is a lot in football, and it's all about emotion. When you play the game of football and you win a game, there's two ways you can go. You can either say we're the best and nobody can beat us, or we're good and we're still trying to improve. You hear this stuff as a player, and it doesn't really make sense to you. You win a game, and you are the best for that Sunday. And then you come up on the other game, you got to have confidence without getting cocky. And that's the toughest thing for a young team, is not to get cocky. The Jets defense have been playing good. Their special teams, which nobody talks about, has been playing excellent. That's why you won that Buffalo game, was because of your special teams. So over at your special teams coach over there is really good and going unnoticed. Jack, a running game and a good defense will get you as far as you can get to the playoffs. Unless the Jets defense is as good as the Baltimore Ravens was, or as good as the Bears were, I don't know if they'll be able to go all the way to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is just standing there throwing. He's not doing anything else. People think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back this year. Jack, I'm telling you right now, he's not from that injury. He won't be back. I don't even think he makes the playoffs unless he absolutely has to go in there. And that I don't think they would do. You're stuck with Zach Wilson to the end of the year, however the year ends. Young teams are tough to control. They're tough to manage. They're tough to keep their feelings in check. I don't know if the bye week, sort of like in playoffs, if it helps the team or hurts the team. I don't know. I really don't know. The Jets are going strong. Now all of a sudden they say, well, stop. Very hard to do. Very hard to do, especially for a young team. I think the Jets will finish the season maybe as a wild card team. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure it's the word momentum in football. I think it's more gelling, coming together. Even Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, they were 7-5, and then they didn't lose another game because they kind of gelled at a certain point. When the Giants upset the unbeaten Patriot team in the Super Bowl, the Giants didn't have the momentum over the Patriots because the Patriots had won every game, but the Giants gelled at the right time. Everything came together at that time. Okay, they were getting a little better as the playoffs were, going along, and I think that's what it actually is. But with the Jets, there's not much margin of error when you look at it that way, because if their defense has an off game, and it's just a little better than average, let's say their defense, but they're not really lights out, they're very beatable. Now you're counting on your offense. You're counting on Zach Wilson, that the type of game he had against the Kansas City Chiefs, a game they lost, by the way, which was a winnable game from their end. Yeah. And but it's a good spot that they're 3-3, at this point. And especially if the Dolphins lose to the Eagles tomorrow, the Jets are just one game out from the division lead. So they could basically just keep holding serve for a while and conceivably even win their division. But a lot's going to come down to this still. We keep talking about Zach Wilson, who's been much maligned. We need a little more improvement out of Zach Wilson because the Jets are playing it super safe with him. No mistakes. That's the theme. They're so scared of making mistakes. And Zach Wilson, to his credit, hasn't been turning the ball over. Okay, against the Eagles, no turnovers on his part. That's great. But at a certain point, they got to open it up a little, the way they did against the Kansas City Chiefs.
There will be a time during the season that Zach Wilson has to really win a game, make a couple throws that wins the games. And that's when we're going to see where Zach Wilson is. And Jack, let me tell you, Zach Wilson is a very solid backup quarterback. He's holding serve right now for you guys. When it comes down to the end of the year and the pressure's on and you've got to win a game or two, that's when we're going to find out. And momentum does have something to do with gelling, Jack. It really does. But momentum is more of a I learned how to win. at the right time. I learned how to win these games that I couldn't win before. Chemistry, injuries are there's a lot that go into it. And a major injury, as we saw to some teams, even if it's a defensive lineman, can affect you in any way. So anyway, Jack, listen, I
want to make a point. When we have on Jim Jeffcoat and Byron Williams, because they played in the highest level in the NFL, I'd like to ask them the question, having fun. We talk about momentum, but I think the teams who have the most fun playing the game, the players, they go out there for love of game, they're more effective. You take a defense who loves the idea, it's game day, that they genuinely love it, and it's not even a job to them that day. They just love going out there and playing. I think those teams are better off than the others who kind of treat it like a job. They want to win, they want to make the playoffs, they know what's at stake. But against the Eagles, the Jet defensive unit, they looked like they were having fun, Mac. Yeah. They seemed there was a joy to the way they were playing. And for the Eagle team, it kind of looked like a job, during the game. Like they were on a business trip, more or less. Let's just get the win, get out of here. Let's take care of business. But for the Jets, it was like a playground game, going out there, getting all hopped up. Yeah.
That's a great point. Because you could see the young, and they're young too, Jack. You know what I mean? You get older. I think sports, as you get older and mature and get through, I think you look at more as a business than you do as having fun. And I think they really have a lot of fun. You're right. That's a great point. So, Jack, we're going to talk a little bit about the best 5-1 team in the NFL. Of course, this is, like I said, almost a halfway point. And there's going to be teams that are 3-3 or 4-2 that may end up beating these teams in the end. But right now, the season finished right now at 6 games. Who, in your opinion, would be the best NFL team?
Well, Kansas City Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champions, but they're not the best 5-1 team right now. They're doing enough to win. And you have to look at Patrick Mahomes' receivers. He has no one he could trust outside of Jason Kelce. Patrick Mahomes is starting to get very frustrated. And the Chiefs have a good defense, not an elite defense. A good defense, Patrick Mahomes, they're getting the W's, but they're not dominating. And I think it catches up to them when they start meeting the better teams. And even tomorrow, I wonder they're going to get it done against the LA Chargers, but we're going to talk about that on our Sunday show. So I can't give it to the Chiefs unless you subscribe to the theory the champs are number one unless they're knocked off the throne. So I'm not going to give it to them. So the Miami Dolphins 5-1, they've got to prove a little more. The Miami Dolphins are the most entertaining 5-1 team, perhaps. They're considered high flying with Hill, Waddle, Tua, and good running game and the whole bit. They're charismatic, but I can't necessarily say they're the best 5-1 team. We're going to know more tomorrow if they beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Now we revisit the argument very seriously, and it takes us to the Eagles and the Niners. I want to break down between those two teams, and we could break it down into what happened last week. The Eagles had the ball at the end of the game, a chance to do something, take it down the field or whatever, or stop the Jets, let the Jets kick a field goal and get the ball back with, a little under a minute left, basically, with no timeouts, but all they would have needed was a field goal, but they let the Jets score a touchdown. And then the Jets stopped them cold on the last possession. They didn't even pick up little chunks of yardage. Conversely, the Niners against the Browns, Mac, everything went wrong for the Niners. Cleveland scores the go-ahead touchdown, but they need a field goal, the Niners, to win the game. They drove into field goal range. As bad a game as it was for them, as much of an off day, they miss a very makeable field goal, the Niners, at the end of the game. So they put themselves in the position to win the game and should have won the game. But the Eagles didn't put themselves in that position. So I go with the 49ers. You talk about the Eagles' weapons on offense: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard at tight end. Give me Kittle, McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, and I'm fine. And Brock Purdy's is turning into the ultimate game manager.
Well, let me work it backwards that you went. First of all, San Francisco, an elite defense. There's no doubt about it. They got elite defense, and most of these teams have a very good to elite defense, good running game, and Purdy's playing well. Problem with the 49ers right now is injuries. Debo's out. Christian McCaffrey's out. The Derek Brown is out. Trent Brown is out. The left tackle. This is good. This is a major problem for San Francisco right now. If McCaffrey can't get healthy all the way, or Debo can get healthy all the way, that's two of their big weapons. And that big offensive tackle protects Purdy's side a lot. And you see Purdy was getting hit a little bit because Brown was injured.
Trent Williams.
Williams. I'm saying Trent Brown. Trent Williams.
Purdy stays in the pocket more than Hurts. Hurts takes off, he runs, he helps the team that way, but also he could be a liability at times running.
And Purdy got shaken up a couple of hits there. This is going to be interesting to see what the 49ers do if they make any moves here at the trade deadline to try and get themselves one of those running backs that might be available. Or
I'll be back. Samuel and McCaffrey will be back, Mac.
They will, but we don't know how long and how hobbled they're going to be, Jack. I'm just talking about
that long. Not that long.
I don't know, Jack. I mean, when you get injured like that in the NFL, it can hobble you for a while. But we'll see. I'm just saying right now.
Yeah, Mac. But the point about it is, it's easy to say, oh, they got to get this guy, they got to get that guy. You get guys off the scrap heap, guys you've given away, basically. You tried to get back, like the Kansas City Chiefs. They trade McCole Hardman to the Jets, and now they trade back for him.
Right.
And, but it's not the answer that you traded someone to
all I'm saying, if once you get them hamstrings as a running back, and again with Williams hurt, I'm just telling you right now, I don't think they're the best 5-1 team in the league. The Eagles, I don't know what's going on with their offense. I don't know why they stopped running the ball against the Jets. They just might have stuffed them a couple times. That was one of the worst game plans I saw Sirianni put together I've ever seen him coach. A lot of mistakes made by the Eagles. The Eagles are still there. They're still near the top. Kansas City, I agree with you. I think Kansas City is going to have some problems. We keep saying that and they keep winning. But I think they're going to have some problems. They're definitely not as strong as they were. I think Harden going back to Kansas City helps them out. He was key to Kansas City, one of the better receivers they had. I think he was third when they had their best receiving core there. But he's going to help out Patrick Mahomes. There's no doubt about it. Miami, as you said, exciting. They remind me of the Rams or the Patriots that went undefeated to the Super Bowl. They got a high-powered offense there right now. Buffalo beats Miami. Buffalo, to me, is not a great team. Division rival. Jack, I'm going to have to stick with the Eagles, man. I think they're going to.
Buffalo has 2 losses, so they don't come in the conversation.
Right, but I'm saying Buffalo did beat Miami when they played them.
Yeah, by 4 touchdowns.
Yes. So, I mean, there's a key to beating Miami. We're going to find out. As you said, the Eagles are going to play. I guarantee you they got that tape on. You got Carter coming back. He's coming back to play tomorrow.
He's a force. He's a
very big force. And we'll see. I mean, Tua, I saw a lot of block down passes by Buffalo. They got their hands up when they didn't get to the rush, which is very smart by them. They're gonna have to control that offensive line with their defense. I think the Eagles can do that. Right now, I still think the best 5-1 team in the league is the Eagles, Jack.
Really. Joe Santoliquito, my buddy, who's a Eagle beat reporter, he was telling me yesterday, we were speaking, and he's covering the Eagles tomorrow. He thinks Miami's going to beat Philadelphia. He feels Philadelphia is hurting in the corner. The cornerback position guys are out, and their secondary is going to not be able to contain Miami. So that's his feeling on the game. I think it's going to. Whoever wins that game, I anticipate a high-scoring game. I kind of wonder what the under Nova is for a game like that. I would assume it's pretty high.
I would assume too. I know the Eagles are favored. I think it's by, I don't know what the favorite is here. I think I even got it here.
That's the type of game I could see high scoring coming down to the wire.
Yeah, -2. So only by 2 points, Jack. Miami's getting two.
Yeah, well, no, we know that offhand.
Yeah,
Most of the time, Mac, we don't even have to look at the odds. We can set it ourselves, and it'll be the same as the odds
basically,
makers. Once in a
basically.
while, we see odds that throw us for a loop, and we're really surprised about it, but not too often.
I agree with that. Do you think the reason that Hurts has dropped off so much is because like they're doing with I don't know. Hurts was passing well last year, Jack. He threw the ball. We thought he took a major step up. He looked like a good pocket quarterback that ran when he had to run. This year, it doesn't seem that way. Is it because they're throwing too much? I don't understand why Hurts is having such a problem this year.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the first half against the Jets, I thought he was brilliant. The Jets, every time they pressured him, he got away and he did things with his legs and he kept drives going. So I think he was outstanding the first half last week and awful the second half. I mean, some of his throws had you scratching your head. I mean, it wasn't even close. I know the Jets had him under constant duress. They were putting on tremendous pressure on him, but you can't make throws like that. I think the thing with Jalen Hurts is this. He's a good NFL quarterback. He'll continue to be a good to very good NFL quarterback, but he's never going to be a great NFL quarterback. Okay. I think last year was his absolute ceiling. He can't get better than he was last year, but everyone saw what he did last year. So they say, okay, now he's going to be better the following year. A lot of times it doesn't work that way. Players peak at an early time in their career, and you see the very best of them, and then they slide backwards, and it depends how much they slide backwards. Jalen Hurts has slid backwards, but he can still be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and you could absolutely win games, and he can still be a difference maker, even if he slid backwards. But I think the expectations with Jalen Hurts is going to be to compare him to the year he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl and how well he played in the Super Bowl game opposite Patrick Mahomes. And he's not likely to live up to those expectations going forward. But like I said, that'll be fine. You could still win the Super Bowl with him because you'll still get a pretty good quarterback. I predicted when he came out of college, Mac, I've said this a few times, he'll be another Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie was not an elite quarterback. He was not one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but he was a pretty decent quarterback, wouldn't you say? You can win with a Doug Flutie.
You could. In fact, they did. The Chargers and the Buffalo Bills did.
Yeah, and that's Jalen Hurts.
I think he's a little.
You know what happened in the Eagle game too? Some of the attitudes you kind of wondered about. There was one play where Hurts delivered the ball exactly the way it's supposed to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown slowed up on the deep pattern. Why did he let up and then he starts sprinting for the ball? Had he been running hard the whole time, A.J. Brown, the ball was delivered where it was supposed to be. Who knows how the game would have turned out if A.J. Brown hauled that catch in? Why did A.J. Brown give up on the play for like a split second or whatever? I have no idea why. But in the second half, what had happened, Jalen Hurts just wasn't able to run the same way. The Jets were closing the lanes. They were pressuring him nonstop. And it gets tiring after a while. It's like a fight in the later rounds of a fight. You get hit with enough body punches. You're kind of slowing down. And that's what happened with Jalen Hurts.
That's where you separate. That's where you separate the great quarterbacks from the good quarterbacks, right? When things are bad and when Patrick Mahomes has to make a play when he's getting pressured, it's near the end of the game. I mean, that's when the great quarterbacks shine. And
he's not a great quarterback, Jalen Hurts. You said it.
Last year, Jack could have made MVP on a losing team. He played that well in the Super Bowl. He played that well.
Mac, Baker Mayfield had a great rookie year for the Browns. RG3 had a great rookie year for the Washington Redskins at the time. And they never quite had years like that again.
But
It,
Jack,
it happens,
Jack,
they
he went to the Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl, Jack, and had an MVP year and could have been MVP of the Super Bowl. That's how good Jalen Hurts was. Everybody thought he was the next one coming. And right now it don't look that way. And I don't know if it's did they change the offense? Did what happened? Because basically they have the same team they had last year. They have the same offensive line, same not the same running backs, but the same wide receivers. And I don't know if it's a game plan.
DeVonta Smith dropped some balls last week.
That happens.
Jalen Hurts delivered the balls, and DeVonta Smith flat out dropped it. Part of my theory is DeVonta Smith is too good a receiver to drop 2-3 balls like that. I think what happens when the defense harasses a receiver enough, it gets inside the receiver's head. I mean, and I think that may have happened with DeVonta Smith. Maybe. I can't tell for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Jalen,
Listen, but it's been that way, Jack. It's been that way for the most part the whole year, Jack. He has not played not close to what he played last year. And I'm just saying this, and I'm still saying the Eagles are the best 5-1 team in the league. Even with all that being said, I'm saying that because I'm hoping that Jalen Hurts becomes the Jalen Hurts of last year. Then that's good.
He's a heck of a quarterback, Jalen Hurts, but not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He could be a top 10 quarterback, ultimately anywhere from 6 to 10. Okay, which is great, but he's not a Joe Burrow, for example. And if you think going forward he's going to be better than or as good as Joe Burrow, it's not going to happen moving forward. We know what Joe Burrow, if he stays healthy, we know what he's going to do going forward. We know what Joe Burrow is about. Jalen Hurts isn't that good. He had a great year last year, but he peaked. I mean, it's going to be very hard for him to get to those heights again, but he can still be very good, as I said. But some of those throws, a couple of those interceptions against the Jets, I know one wasn't his fault, went out of the receiver's hands, but what the heck was he thinking throwing into coverage like that? Wow.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Jack, I can't wait to get this because this is one of your favorite quarterbacks in the league. Is Justin Herbert overrated, Jack?
No, he's not overrated. He's hurt right now. He has a bad thumb. If Justin Herbert sat out, we wouldn't be criticizing his performances. We'd just be saying he's injured. We got to get him back in. So when a player tries to play through an injury, he's usually not going to be as effective. But we don't seem to care that player's hurt. And that's the reason he's not performing as well. So we just judge him by what we see visually on the field and say, Justin Herbert is struggling. Maybe he's not that good after all. And he's one of the quarterbacks, especially last year, had no protection. I mean, no matter how great a quarterback is, he can't do it on his own. The closest quarterback carrying a team would be Patrick Mahomes this year, with all the receiver difficulties. But Patrick Mahomes is one of the all-time great quarterbacks. I think most people would agree on it right now. But before rating him against the Montanas, the Bradys, the Mannings, we want to let his career run its course. But certainly Patrick Mahomes is very much on the cusp of all that. And if he retired today, Patrick Mahomes, he would be rated as an all-time great quarterback, first ballot Hall of Fame, and no ifs or buts about it. But Justin Herbert's got his work cut out for him. I think we're going to see Justin Herbert tomorrow on a high level against the great Patrick Mahomes really show what he's about. I think we're going to see that tomorrow.
You could put Justin Herbert right in the category of Derek Carr to me.
No, kidding. Derek Carr couldn't even be a scoring
throws for a lot of yards. It's a lot of junk yards at the end of the game. Listen, I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think he's overrated. This is the golden boy we're talking about here. This is the guy that was going to San Diego, throwing for 1,000 yards or 4,000 yards in 3 years. So what? The Chargers haven't made it a championship since he's been there. They're not going there again this year. You make fun of Derek Carr. He threw for 4,000 yards too, Jack. And I think the Raiders won a playoff game too, just like the Chargers did. When you talk about quarterbacks, you got a few quarterbacks that you really like. And it has a lot to do with stats. But there are junk stats, Jack. There are stats when you're far behind, whatever the score is, and all of a sudden the team just kind of lets you move the ball and go ahead and get all your yards. That's Justin Herbert to me. He's like I'm trying to think of the guy that had a great arm and threw for a lot of, besides Derek Carr back in the past there. I think he played for Chicago for a while. But anyway, he throws for a lot of yards. So what?
Oh, Jay Cutler.
Thank you very much, Jack. That's Justin Herbert as good as Jay Cutler is what I think Justin Herbert is. Very overrated. The only way they have a chance of winning is in throwing. They don't have a good defense. They haven't had a good defense. Their coach isn't that smart either. But I'm telling you right now, Jack, Justin Herbert is one of those quarterbacks that by the time his season his career is over, he'll have like 50,000 yards and not one championship win. He's that overrated.
So you're saying he'll be like Phillip Rivers?
Yes. In fact, worse, he may not even make the championship game. At least Rivers took the Chargers.
Well, we're going to see the Chargers right now appear to be a bit dysfunctional with their coach Brandon Staley makes certain decisions which really seem to be out of the box. But they have a good defense. I'm not giving up on them this year. They lose to the Cowboys at home. It was a winnable game. It came down to the end, and the jury could still be out on Justin Herbert a bit, but I feel he's as good as advertised. Him, Josh Allen, a step behind Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. And wasn't it a little while ago, Mac, that everyone was saying what a mistake the Miami Dolphins made by drafting Tua ahead of Justin Herbert? The Dolphins took Tua with the number 5 overall pick, and Justin Herbert from Oregon, he went number 6 in the next pick. And everyone was saying, oh, how much better the Dolphins would have been if they took Justin Herbert. So people change their tune like week to week. But Justin Herbert is very much an elite quarterback. Don't compare Derek Carr to Justin Herbert. Derek Carr is an average quarterback.
What is an elite quarterback to you, Jack? What is your definition? Because I'm dying to hear this. You're calling Justin Herbert an elite quarterback. He has not led his team to I don't even know if he has a playoff win. I'm not sure.
Quarterback.
He's been throwing up a lot of yards. A lot of quarterbacks have done that, Jack. Doesn't an elite quarterback take that team to the next level?
Yeah, I agree. Last year in the playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Chargers had a big lead at the half. And it's their defense that let them down. And Jaguars came back and pulled it out. But in all fairness, Justin Herbert should have regained some semblance of control of that game and gotten the Chargers over the top. I'm going to agree with you on that. But the Chargers have had a dysfunctional unit, and Justin Herbert, I believe, is hurt now. That's what we hear. He has a really bad thumb that's affecting him throwing the ball.
Is it on his throwing hand? Is it on his throwing hand, Jack?
No, but it affects his overall mobility and everything. But listen, we're going to have more of an answer to that question at the end of the year. If the Chargers don't make the playoffs, they're flat, and Justin Herbert doesn't perform well in games that could have gotten them into the playoffs, then maybe we could say, look, he's not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But what is the question? If we're saying he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, a top 5 quarterback, then you can maybe make the case that he's overrated for right now. But I believe he's as good as people think he is. I really do. And I think he's going to prove it going forward. As far as let me give you this comparison, Mac, okay? You're a big Giant fan. Make believe you're the Giant GM. Mm-hmm. And the Chargers call you up and they tell you they will trade you Justin Herbert and they'll take Daniel Jones off your hands. They want 2 number 1 draft picks. And you have Justin Herbert as your franchise quarterback. Do you make the deal? I make the deal. I give him 2 number 1 picks.
Not with 2 number 1s. And Daniel Jones? No. No, not
I absolutely would. If And if the Saints call me about Derek Carr, are you kidding me? Derek Carr? Derek Carr, there's already discontent in New Orleans. He's been criticizing some of the other guys on offense. Him and Jameis Winston was trying to help him on the sideline. He was going like this, the backup of the Saints. And Derek Carr was completely befuddled. The bottom line is Derek Carr's just another guy. He's not that good. Mac, I've been trying to tell you this the last couple of years, and he's like a Jacoby Brissett type, maybe just a little better.
I want to know what has Justin Herbert done better than Derek Carr right now?
The Chargers have been making the playoffs, at least. They've been making the playoffs.
How many times have they made the playoffs? Last year.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. They made it last year. They've had decent teams with Justin Herbert, at least. Justin Herbert came in. You know how he got his debut, his start? To give you an example, Tyrod Taylor on the sideline got sick, and Justin Herbert was suddenly thrust into action without having a chance to practice with the first team. And he played so well that Tyrod Taylor could never get his job back.
Well, Tyrod
he was supposed to carry the clipboard for the year, and he had a really good rookie year, and it wasn't anticipated for him to play. I'm going to go a step further.
Tyrod Taylor's a backup quarterback, Jack.
But he was a starter for the Chargers. That was the intention. I'm going to go a step further. Before the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, if they could have gotten Justin Herbert,
right,
I would have detoured to Justin Herbert. I would have taken him ahead of Aaron Rodgers because he's younger, more time. You know, he'll have more time in the league going forward than Aaron Rodgers. So that's, you know, he's a good quarterback, Justin Herbert. Make no mistake about
it. He's good. I just think he's overrated, Jack. I listen. They had a chance against the Jags, and that's when I started. Believe it or not, I picked the Chargers to go to Super Bowl. I think, if I'm not mistaken.
You did. Yeah. Oh, there you go, Mac. Oh, wow. You make my argument for me. You must have thought Justin Herbert was pretty good, at least at the start of the year, if you're picking them to go to the Super Bowl.
Well, I looked at Kansas City, and I looked at their roster, and I thought, well, they get in the playoffs and they get the bye. They got a shot. Now I don't.
They might still go to the Super Bowl. They might get in as a wild card. You know, don't give up on your prediction. You picked the Eagles over the Chargers in the Super Bowl. I also picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl, but I picked the Cincinnati Bengals to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not giving up on my picks, so don't give up on yours.
I won't, Jack. I won't give up. I just think they can still, maybe they'll get there to the Super Bowl with the overrated Justin Herbert. We'll see what happens. Do the Giants get their second win of the season tomorrow, Jack? I know the Giants are your second favorite team in the league. Do they make it?
I love the way you called an audible, Mac, and you slipped it in there because your original debate question, I'm going to let the audience know, was funny. Can the Giants get to 5-5 and make them amend? They're 1-5 now. They're not getting to 5-5. I mean, what can the Giants salvage out of the season? That's the question. If they're to salvage anything out of the season, it's got to happen in the next 2 weeks. Obviously, next week, they want to win the Jet game, even if they lose to Washington. It's temporary bragging rights, because let's be honest, a week from now, Mac, no matter who wins the Giant-Jet game, it's more or less forgotten later on. You know, it's where the teams wind up at the end, not what they do one game. Case in point, Joe Montana beats the San Francisco 49ers after he left them when he was with the Chiefs. But that year, the Niners win the Super Bowl. Even though we remember Montana beat the 49ers, the Niners got the glory with Steve Young because they did win the Super Bowl.
Right.
It's got to start with the Commanders. The Commanders are no more than an average team, no more than that. They're the Giants division. So if the Giants are going to try to sneak back into playoff contention, see some light at the end of the tunnel, it's got to start tomorrow against the Commanders. Do I think they can beat them? If they come up with the same defensive effort they did against Buffalo, sure. I still think the Giants have a good defense. I don't think they have a bad defense. And if the Giant defense shows up, they can make things uncomfortable for anyone. The discouraging part is the offense. Saquon Barkley looks like he's going to play. Who knows how healthy he is? But if Saquon Barkley's playing, the Washington Commanders defense is going to key on him. And we keep hearing about Jalen Hyatt, their draft pick. He's got potential, but we don't know, how good he's really going to be, whether how big a game he's, really capable of having. And Darren Waller, their tight end, he hasn't been the player he was, a couple of years ago. He might still be it. But he hasn't really, he's been a little bit disappointing. So the Giants need a big defensive effort, and it's a winnable game.
Yeah.
But if they don't win it, Mac, what's it going to say? They go to 1-6, and they'll need the best case scenario for a wild card team in the week NFC is 8-9. Best case scenario to get a third wild card position, and 8-9 probably won't be good enough. And if the Giants are 1-6, that means they'll have to go like 7-3 the rest of the way.
That's true. That's true. The bright thing about this is the Giants have beaten Washington the last 3 years, even with Vera there. Saquon normally has a big game. He had a big game in the second half against the Bills. They don't know whether Daniel Jones is playing or not. Hyatt got more thrown to him last week with Taylor there. I don't know why Daniel Jones couldn't do that. But the Washington Redskins cornerbacks are pretty weak. They give up a lot of big plays, so I expect to see Hyatt out there catching balls. I really don't know.
Matt, the Giants parted ways with Cole Beasley.
Yes,
he was on the Giant practice squad. Now, Cole Beasley seemed to be a bit of a favorite with Coach Brian Daboll, because Brian Daboll had him when he was with the Buffalo Bills, when he was on their coaching staff there. And he had a nice talk with Cole Beasley. And Cole Beasley's 34, and he didn't feel he was going to see the field or whatever. So they very gently released him. And you kind of wonder why a veteran receiver like that, who could bring a little leadership and stability to the Giants, wasn't on the active roster. But obviously they have a few guys they think with more upside.
Yeah, it's a good question, Jack. I mean, they have that Wade Robinson. I think Robinson's his last name. I think it's Wade Robinson. He's been playing a lot for him. I don't know. I think Cole Beasley could have been a good shot in the air for the Giants in a couple of those games. I agree with you. So I think they can. Will they? I really don't know.
We'll let you know tomorrow on a Sunday football show. We'll have a predictions tomorrow. But it's a very winnable game for the Giants. But like Bart Oates told us, Mac, when he was on our show a couple of years ago, when our teams look at the schedule, they identify games that are very winnable, and we do it as fans. And as a Giant fan, you look at the Commanders and say, we can win that game. And then you look the following week, you see the Jets, and you think, we could beat the Jets, which of course you could. But what do you think the Commanders and Jets have done? They look at the Giants and they say, this is a very winnable game for us.
Very true. Very true. Jack, do the Patriots let Bill Belichick walk at the end of the year?
I think so, yeah. I think so, absolutely. We have on Keith Engel, who constantly, and Keith really knows his stuff. He's a guy I have tremendous respect for. But I think Keith was living in the moment in the past when it came to Bill Belichick. Oh, Bill can leave on his own terms. He can do that. He can do that. Public pressure affects ownership. And the Patriots are 1-5. Had the last 3 games been nail biters, that's another matter, okay? But when you're not competitive in a couple of those games, and then you lose to the Raiders, a very winnable game last week, 1-5. And this would be the 4th year since Brady left, and they made the playoffs 1 year and got blown out in that playoff game. It's maybe time to move on. Now, I have mixed feelings on this. I always thought to myself, Bill Belichick, after all he's done for the Patriots, you can never fire him. You have to allow him to leave on his own terms. You have to try to work things out with him. Like they have a similar situation, Mac, in San Antonio with Greg Popovich. he's the NBA's version of Bill Belichick, but maybe a little more outgoing, maybe a little more liked. And
Yes.
the Spurs aren't firing Coach Pop, and they've been awful. And now they want Yamba coming to their team, who he'd be a perfect mentor for. So Coach Pop can probably be there as long as he wants. But then I read a book called Dynasty a few months ago. And in that book, it detailed all the good Patriots who Bill Belichick traded, cut, got rid of for whatever reason, who had been with the Patriots for a while. So why should Robert Kraft treat Bill Belichick different? Bill Belichick isn't as effective for him anymore. It's time to move on as far as Robert Kraft goes. Robert Kraft is seriously thinking of it. If the Patriots wind up 4-13 this year, 5-12, it could even be worse than that, 6-11. I don't know. There's a good chance Bill Belichick's let go. I would expect him to let go, more than a good chance. I think Robert Kraft absolutely moves on.
Well, you have Teddy Bruschi and Ty Law coming out saying that, this should be his last year. Those are pretty, Bill Belichick coached some Super Bowl winners. A lot of people are saying, let him coach, get another GM. I don't think you do that with somebody like Bill Belichick. That's almost like firing him. You're saying, hey, it's like saying, I've heard people actually say Bill Belichick should be the defensive coordinator of a team. He would be great at that. That's a step down. He's not going to do that.
He won't take it at this point in life. No way.
Of course not. And he's not going to step down from the GM either. He feels that he helped build those teams, and he did. He drafted. I don't know how they did it back then. I don't know what's changed. But, that you're asking him to take a step down, and that's humiliation. And I don't think you're going to humiliate Bill Belichick in any way. I think he's a lot like Bill Parcells. You're not going to say, okay, you can do this, but you can't do that anymore. I don't think you can do that with Belichick. I think at the end of the year, I agree with you, Jack. I think he's gone.
Mac, but he will be able to get another head coaching job if he wants it.
He wants it, yes.
If that fire burns within him to coach. But I don't think he would be in a situation where he would get a young rebuilding team. The type of job he would get would be a job, let's say, we were just talking about the the Los Angeles Chargers.
Good point.
A team like that, great defensive unit, a team that could be ready to win, now. Those are the type of jobs I'd see him take, unless it's a young team with a lot of great young talent that could make a surge forward suddenly. But without question, Bill Belichick, if he's let go, does get another head coaching job somewhere.
If he wants it.
What do you think? It's not going to happen because Brian Daboll is very secure with Joe Shine, and the Giant ownership is stable. But that would have been a real interesting fit. You imagine he came back to the Giants.
It would have been. It definitely would have been. Jim Harbaugh has been available for the last 5 years.
Let him stay available, Rick. The heck with him. I'm tired.
I know he's been teasing the Minnesota Vikings for the last 3 years.
Good coach, Jim Harbaugh. Miserable personality, utterly miserable personality, but a very good coach.
Yes.
He's not. I don't think he's a phony. He's not my cup of tea exactly, but he is a good coach.
Yeah, he's a good coach. I don't think he's a great coach. I think he's a winner. He's a winner. He brought a team to the Super Bowl. Can't beat that. Right?
And Michigan, they started slow the program, but he's got them into national prominence.
Yeah,
got to give him due.
Definitely. Jim Harbaugh is a big personality, and when you played in the NFL and you coach in the NFL, you should be able to recruit some good players there. So for our last question today, Jack. Now this is pretty interesting, and they lost last night, so this question really comes and pops now. Can the Phillies hit their way to a World Series win? Jack, there haven't been many teams that have been able to do that, right? I talk about the Yankees because the Yankees have been on so many World Series. They had Murderers Row. When they came back against the Braves, they won it basically with hitting the ball. But they had a great closer. The Phillies do not have a great closer. And if their pitching lets up, and it gets down to the end of the game, as the Arizona Diamondbacks did last, they sneak in there and they can beat the Phillies. But the Phillies have a lot of power, Jack. Can they do it? Can they win their World Series?
It's 2-up, Mac. Let's not talk about the World Series yet. 2-2 with the Diamondbacks. the Phillies might not get there. We were thinking in terms, oh, they're going to sweep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when they lost the game and it became 2-1, we thought, the Phillies go up 3-1. There's a good chance they wrap it up in Arizona. And if they go back to Philadelphia by some chance 3-2, they absolutely win game 6. Phillies might still win in 6. But I got news for you. If the Phillies lose the next game against the Diamondbacks, they're going back to Philadelphia facing elimination where they'd have to win 2 in a row. Do you know what a shock that's going to be to the Philly fan base if they get eliminated by the Diamondbacks? And what happened, it was the Philly bullpen having a 5-2 lead in the 7th. The Diamondbacks score a run, and then the Diamondbacks, who are trailing 5-3 in the last of the 8th, score 3 runs. Craig Kimbrell, who they originally got, to be the closer, who used to be a great closer, but when the Phillies gave him his performances had been slipping, that they were hoping he'd regain what he has, apparently hasn't done it. He's been kind of inconsistent. So the Philadelphia bullpen, really let him down big time yesterday, as did the Texas Rangers bullpen. I want to say something about that game because, I was really into that game, watching it with the Rangers and the Astros, and it looked like Texas was going to go up 3-2. Game 5 was in Texas, so they were going to go back to Houston, still in good shape. But in the 6th inning, one of their players, Adolis Garcia, hits a home run. Now, I'm all for guys celebrating to a point. I don't think they have to do it the Mickey Mantle way with their head held down, like they don't want to embarrass the pitcher. No one wants to embarrass any other player. You shouldn't ever want to do it. But this guy, Garcia, is walking slow to first base with the bat in his hand. Walking, taking his time. You hit the home run, start jogging. If you want to flip the bat and go like this, and like clap while you're running around the bases, that's fair game. You're happy. The opposition accepts that. So he starts walking to first base very slowly after he hits the home run, and then he spikes the bat the way a player would spike a football. And then he's going slow around the bases, making his act at home plate. And I'm all against the pitcher drilling a batter. And I'm thinking, and you know how mild-mannered I am, Mac. I would be very tempted to drill the guy. I wouldn't want to hurt him, but I wouldn't mind bouncing one off his helmet at top speed, as long as I knew I wouldn't be injuring him. Okay? An absolutely uncalled for. He provoked it. But with that said, Brian Abreu, the Astro relief pitcher there, okay, who supposedly, they're down 4-2, the Astros. There's a man on first base. It's the 8th inning. And back comes Garcia to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Common sense tells you don't hit the guy and put runners on first and second. It's the playoffs. You're down 2 runs in the 8th inning. That's insane. You think about winning the game. Get back at the guy at another time next season or whatever.
Yeah.
So he hits him high up with a 98-mile-per-hour fastball. Do I think it was intentional? Yes. How about that?
It was.
Common sense. The one thing Abreu maybe thought no one's going to believe I would hit the guy in this situation. Okay? Us, losing 4-2, and I can't afford any more base. I can't afford to put the guy on first, on second base in scoring position because there are no outs. But he hits him, and I thought intentionally, and that's what the umpires felt, and they kicked him out of the game. Yep. Dusty Baker's livid that his pitcher's getting kicked out of the game, pointing to the situation. Why would he want to hit him in that situation? And Baker's argument makes sense, except Garcia was so out of the loop the way he was acting. And let me tell you what bothered me too at the end of the game, no one made mention of. Dusty Baker's kicked out, man. When the game ends, Dusty Baker's in the dugout.
Yep.
So what? A guy gets kicked out. What is he in the runway giving instructions right by the steps?
I'm not
watching the game on TV, still being part of the game.
I'm not, Jack, I'm not sure how that works. When they kick you off the field or out of the dugout, Can you stay in a tunnel? I don't know if that's. I have never heard that you can't stay in a tunnel. I've never heard that.
I got a new rule, Mac. A new rule. You know the way I am. Managers that get kicked out have to report to their office, and someone from Major League Baseball sits with them during that time to be sure they don't partake in the game or anything. It's
Yeah.
like a kid in detention.
Yeah,
Like a kid gets sent to detention. He's sitting there in the auditorium. The teacher's there. He can't take out his phone and start playing and entertaining himself. He has to do his homework there to keep busy. You're not there for entertainment. You can't start talking to the kid next to you, laughing and joking and socializing. That's what should be done. So it bothered me with Dusty Baker still being involved. When he's involved in game decisions, I wonder.
That's very possible. The detention rule, Jack has come up with a new rule for baseball, like we don't have enough already. This one kind of makes sense, though. I don't mind this one. This doesn't affect the play on the field. So the detention rule, Jack's detention rule, very interesting.
Detention rule. Dusty Baker, I never saw him so mad when he got kicked out.
Yeah. Well, listen, Jack, there's no doubt. When you barely miss somebody, you're more here. You're not more back there. The guy went back and got hit. He turned his body or whatever, but he got hit more towards, like you said, the upper shoulder. I think it was intentional. That's what the Houston Astros needed too. I'll tell you, Houston Altuve, I don't like the guy personally, but that dude is one hell of a baseball player, Jack. That dude plays baseball the way you're supposed to play baseball. Ticks a lot of people off. I love that little guy. He's got power. He's got heart. You're never out of the game when you got him playing. He's got 10 home runs in postseason.
Yeah, big bat. He's been clutch all the way. His glove's a little questionable.
A little off, but still, I take him. I take him in a minute.
Yeah. Altuve's going to be a Hall of Famer. Listen, regardless of the Astros cheating in the past, okay, they go to the World Series, even if they lose it. They're modern day dynasty. They've gone to 4 World Series in the last 7 years. They go again this year. That would be 5 in 8 years, and especially they win it. They're a modern dynasty.
I agree.
We got to really appreciate everything that most of what they've done. Not the year that they cheated.
Yes, probably so. And I probably a lot of teams cheat, Jack. They just don't get caught.
Everyone tries to steal signs.
They're a little flamboyant. They were a little flamboyant with it. Let's put it that way. They were reckless with it. That's how they got caught. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow we got the big football show with Jim Jeffcoat, our weekly guests. We'll have a couple super fans in again this week. We're bringing on Jetman to support Jack. The Jets 3-3. They're in it. And listen, go ahead, go Jets. Everyone have a